What's your reaction to Mr Cameron's Financial Times article in which he attempts to limit welfare benefits in a number of ways to migrants?
I think this is a very expected political announcement in the form of an article. It is to be read very carefully, to be studied, to be consulted back in my capital. It is, which is very important to us, an indirect reconfirmation that the UK government will lift the remaining restrictions to the access to the labour market, and I stress this, to the labour market for Bulgarians and Romanians, levelling them up with the rest of the citizens of the European Union. And I had one sentence, if I may, the reconfirmation by the Foreign Office that this is indeed the message among the lines, if you will, of the article in question.
So there is no doubt in your mind that the final restrictions on Bulgarians and Romanians will be lifted in January, that they will have the same rights of movement across European borders as the rest of the European Union.
May I just make a very important precision? The right of movement is already there, but the right to work legally in your market was subject to some administrative restrictions, which will be removed.
So they will go.
They will go, and it's a different subject altogether, the issue of the access to your social welfare system.
I understand that, right. So that happens.
I would like to have a triple distinctions, as it were, in this amalgam of notions in the head of some of your compatriots.
Right, I understand that this is in the head of some of our compatriots you don't want to know. But let me ask you this. Are you broadly sympathetic to the tightening up of welfare benefits for EU migrants?
In principle, we stick to the view that those who have access to benefits should have contributed to the gross domestic product of each nation where these European Union nationals work. However, there are two conditions attached to it. One of them is that there should not be a discriminatory attitude to specific citizens from a specific country in the European Union, and indeed all national legislative or administrative measures should be in full compliance with applicable EU legislation.
And is it the case, as I think I've seen you reported as saying, that no Bulgarians who've applied to come and work here have been turned down anyway?
To be very precise, most Bulgarians who have provided the necessary documents have been granted the permit to work here in the specific category to which they belong. In other words, there hasn't been a trend of quotization of the number of workers so far because it is contrary to the applicable EU legislation. So, in other words, the 1st of January won't see a floodgate opening of the access to your labour markets, but rather we'll see a situation of access through work permits towards a situation of finding work without the work permits characteristic for the transition periods.
But let me just be clear here. Are you saying we will not see the floodgates opening? That's what you're saying? We will not see a sudden rush of large numbers of Bulgarians, Romanians coming to work in this country?
We are not crystal ball gazers, but the objective analysis suggests that because of the factors I explained below, because of the relatively easy access to your labor market for legally working Bulgarians before the 1st of January, we don't see any objective prerequisite for a rising coming of our compatriots. Moreover, there is a very large-scale information campaign of the existing restrictions to the access of your social welfare system, and indeed the need for people to be absolutely immaculate in terms of the documents they will have to even apply for work here in the period after the new year that's coming.
Now, the gap in living standards, per capita GDP, between Bulgaria and Romania and the western part of the EU, France, Germany, the Benelux countries, the United Kingdom, is large.
That is true.
Are you not worried that as movement and moving to jobs becomes friction-free, that you lose a lot of your best and brightest?
We're very worried. And if I have to be very honest with you, it is a problem of a brain drain for Bulgaria much more than it is of the so-called influx of the best qualified nurses and doctors, entrepreneurs or financiers into your country.
Yeah, I can understand why that's a worry. And do you think that Britain is becoming, in its attitude towards this, a nasty country?
I don't think so, but there is a nasty anti-Bulgarian, defamatory in many aspects campaign whipped up by certain politicians and certain media, which I will not name.
Oh,
go on.
I was going to say who.
You're too diplomatic.
I am a diplomat.
You must be an ambassador.
That is true. That is true, sir.
Ambassador, thank you for joining us on the Daily
Thank you very
Politics.
much for the opportunity.